So good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Victor OVS, and I lead community growth at RiseVest. And I'm sure most of us know what RiseVest is or what RiseVest does. So we have a community on Telegram, which um we organize investment club meeting every month. It's something that it's a session or a webinar, but we call it investment club meeting. And the goal for our community mainly is to help our members grow, manage, and invest their money better. Because we believe that to even before you can even start investing properly, you need to also know how to, aside growing your money, you also need to know how to manage your money better. So we organize like events like this. It could be on a subject matter that anything that ties to your finances, really. So it could be growing your finances, it could be managing your money. And we just try to talk about it as a community. And so today, because of the season that we are, which is a season of love, we thought to also touch this. So that is it for the topic we have today. So the topic we have today for our February Investment Club meeting is understanding the language of love and money with your partner. And we all know how money is, even in the Holy Book, you hear that money is the root of all evil, and then even some people that we look up to would come with like a lot of counseling about how money can be like a problem, how to navigate it, how you can manage it, and more of those things. So we thought, why not talk about it today? So to begin this, so as not to just lengthen this talk, so I'm going to be starting with you, Comfort. So our first question, so it's going to be a question and answer. Then we go to the anonymous question before we take live questions. So our first question for you would be, in your experience, why does money carry so much emotional weight in romantic relationship? Like, why money? Like, why must that conversation always come up?
I think in general, nowadays in life, money carries a lot of weight, and that just naturally spills into the relationships we have with people, and not just romantic relationships, right? It spills into relationships we have with colleagues, friends, siblings, our parents, because money is just such a huge part of our day-to-day life. It has this power because money gets you everything. You can't get anything in this life without money. You want some rest, you want some mental health support, you want to get shelter, food, clothing. You need money for basically everything. And many of us are walking around with one form of money trauma or the other due to how we grew up, and how money was like in our childhood, especially when you consider where we're coming from, which is Nigeria, where, let's be honest, we're one of the poverty capitals of the world. So a lot of us grew up around lack, and that lack shaped, how our childhood was for most of the time, right? So our parents were either very, very strict when it came to the issue of money, always just trying to, oh, I don't have, I don't have, I don't have. Or we could see how hard they were working and just how much strain the lack put on the family. And sometimes we could even see conflicts that arose from that money not being available, right? So in many ways, money has affected us. So when we now grow up and begin to get into relationships of our own, romantic relationships of our own, a lot of the way we handle money, see money, react to money, is coming from the things we experienced in the past. So if you grew up around lack, you probably have a lot of anxiety towards money. And when you're in a relationship with someone, you want to be sure that this person is a person who can take that anxiety away, right? They can work hard enough to make sure that money is often available. Perhaps not in surplus, but most preferably, in surplus. And when that doesn't happen, there's friction. Especially the fact that, we all have different ways that we handle money. Some people are spenders, some people are hoarders, some people spend and hoard at the same time. And when you meet someone who is on a different level from you, is operating on a different frequency, or maybe even operating on the same frequency, it can still cause a little bit of friction. Because if you're a spender, and the other person is also a spender, you just realize that you guys are making money, maybe, but it's not staying, and that can lead to, more conflicts. Or if you are a spender and they are a hoarder, that would definitely lead to more conflicts as well. So, yeah, I'll just say our upbringing mostly really affects the way we react to matters of money in our relationships, right? Because there's just so much anxiety and fear around it. But even more so, the fact that money is such an integral part of life means that the conversation would always come up. So when it comes up and two people are not aligned, they're not in the same space, of course, it's going to lead to issues. So you need money for everything. And because you need money for everything, it will always be an integral component of your relationships.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, that was quite detailed. And I really love your answers because it now leads us to the next question. I mean, you talked about how, I mean, aside the fact that relationship and money is very important to relationship, even in day-to-day life, it's also very important to talk about how it could be um someone's upbringing with money relationship. So it lead us to the next question where we know there are different kind of people with different money mindsets. So I think I'll be asking you this too. So can two people with completely different money mindsets build a healthy partnership, or does long-term financial compatibility matter more than we admit? So can two people with different money mindsets, because Comfort here talks about some people are spenders, some people are also savers. I mean, different people with different money mindsets. So can two people with completely different money mindsets, can they build a healthy relationship?
Thank you so much, Victor, for that question. And like you said, this answer will make more sense coming up from where Comfort answered. And before I answer yes or no, I think I want people to just picture and imagine what life was like growing up. Whether you're from a family where you had everything you needed, or maybe you saw your parents actually like grow over time from a place of um, being comfortable financially to or struggling financially to being comfortable, you will see that many times the strength of relationship between your parents many times it affects on money. For two persons, for two partners, for two people to build a lasting relationship, a healthy partnership, they must agree on financial on they must have financial compatibility. A relationship will only thrive when two people are aligned. For instance, imagine you are a saver, your partner is a spender. There's already conflict. Because why one person want to say, you know what, let's save up so we can travel later in the year, or let's save up to buy this car, let's save up to um upgrade the house we're living in. The other person want to just buy the next available thing. The other person want to buy PS5 or want to buy rig or something. And you see that you constantly, clash. For instance, um one person is more disciplined in terms of finances. They spend money on only what is important, not what's necessary. But that person has like a bad habit like betting or gambling. They've carried your money and they've put it on Arsenal or Liverpool and West Ham, or Arsenal winning the Premier League or something. You will always fight and quarrel. And the reason is, which is what Comfort spoke about, money conversation, money arguments. Most times when two people fight on money, it's never about how much you have, how much you earn. Sometimes it's a question of security. Are we going to be able to have the future we want? Am I safe with you? With the way you're handling money, are we going to be able to achieve the goal or achieve the future we want to? Will our children be safe? Are we going to come back one day and there's a law enforcement agent on our door saying that our house is not our own because bank has to confiscate it because of poor financial management? So for two people to be able to build a healthy relationship, healthy partnership, it happens only when they are aligned, when they're intentionally aligned as regarding finances. When because conflicts as regarding money between partners it talks about value, value expectations. Do you value me? I've gone out all day stressing and working, but you're just plunging it, or you're not even contributing. And there's this popular question that people argue about: what do you bring to the table? Say, oh, I'm the table. And someone is saying, no, 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 we are not the table. Our relationship is the table. And especially many of us can relate to this now because we're in a society where it's difficult for one in our household to survive. We're not at the time where only daddy can work, mommy will stay at home, and you're fine. Now you both have to work, but imagine one person is doing the effort, and one person could be the man or the woman. You're the one going working, the other person is being irresponsible, being laid back. It's going to cost, no matter how much you love each other, it's going to cost, constant. Correct. And the last thing I'm going to say on this is, I think the third or the fourth leading cause of divorce and separation in marriage is actually money matters. So it shows that this is extremely important. You both must be aligned. Back to you, Victor.
Thank you so much. So in summary, there must be a sort of kind of understanding where whether you're a spender, whether you're a saver, whether you're an investor, whatever money personality you have, whether you like to manage, there must be a sort of understanding where, this is what it is, this is what it is. How can we make this work out? So I think that pretty much makes sense. Loretta, so our final guest have joined. So just, hi, Dr. Loretta, are you there? I just granted you access to speak, so I can introduce you before moving to the next question. So there is an icon in the middle of your chat. I think you can just, with a mic, then you can just click on it and you'll be unmuted because I've granted you access to speak. Yeah. Introduce you before moving to the next question. Hi, Dr. Loretta, are you there? So there's an icon in the middle of your chat. I think you can just, with a mic, then you can just click on it and you'll be unmuted because I was granted the access to speak. Yeah. Hi, Dr. Loretta, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Good evening. Yeah, I can.
Hello?
Good evening. How are you doing? Yes, I can.
Hello?
Are you there?
Hello?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Yeah.
Good evening. How are you doing? So
I'm
good
good,
evening.
thank
How are you
you.
doing today? Are you there?
Yes,
All
I'm
right.
here and I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Do you mind giving a brief introduction of yourself before
I said I
we
am
continue?
fine. I'm
So
good.
good evening. How are you doing today?
I am
All
very
right. I feel
good.
like
Thank you.
I'm lagging on your end. Okay. Do you mind giving a brief introduction of yourself before we continue?
Oh, okay. My name is Loretta. Okay, I am a coach, a therapist, a counselor, and a security professional. What else? I think that's pretty much what I would say. Thank you.
All right. So moving on. Tolu, yeah, I like the way you
Hello.
dissected that question. So I already explained how. In summary, it means understanding is important in understanding
So
money
yeah,
mindset.
I like the way you
So
dissected that question. So I already explained how. In summary, it means
I'm
understanding
lagging
is
on the
important
end.
in
Let me try
understanding money
and
mindset.
mute.
So
Please, can Loretta mute? I think it's feeding back to
Yeah,
the
I already did. So moving on to the next question, Dr. Loretta, if you are there. So Tolu already explained how different people with different money mindsets how to build a healthy relationship. So I just like how these questions and the answers my guests are answering with are always leading to the next question. So which makes me ask, so at what stage in a relationship should partners start beginning to open up about their finances? So finances being disclosing their debts, their income realities or financial obligations. At what point in a relationship should partners begin to do that? So this is for you, Dr. Loretta, if you are there, if your network is good.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I would say, yes, money is very important in every,
Yes, I can.
yes, money is very important in every relationship, but you don't start talking about it too early. So, when you maybe at the very early stage, you could be talking about, oh, what are your values? How do you view money? Are you a saver or a spender? Just having those general conversations, okay? When you now become exclusive, you can now start talking about general realities. When you are exclusive, both of you know where you are headed. You can have those conversations about what are your responsibilities, your major responsibilities. So, for example, depending on the kind of family somebody comes from, some people maybe they are the first children and they are carrying, a lot of load. You need to have those conversations when you become exclusive. You have the conversations about debts. What should I know? What are you owing? Although fortunately in Nigeria, we don't really have student debts, but for those people that, are based abroad, that is a very important conversation to be had. What do you owe in student loans? You have all those. Then when you've gotten to the stage where you're planning a future, you're at this point where, okay, we are planning a future together. There's need for full transparency. Full transparency. There's going to be talks about your income, your debts, your dependents, your obligations, your financial goals, your credit issues. These are conversations that you must have before you say I do. Because when you enter in, at that point, you are supposed to start running your script. You may not have time to go back to those conversations, but you must have those conversations before you say the I do. Okay. So LD transparency would say, okay, I'm honest, there's no drama, there's no shame, you're not interrogating your partner, you're not condemning them, because I'm sure the other speakers have talked about different money personalities. It is just what it is just your personality. It does not mean that this person is superior to the other person. However, both of you must have shared goals, so you have those conversations and you focus on teamwork. That is the only way you can move forward. It is a no judgment zone. This is it. We're in this thing together. So you have those conversations and you must be willing to show documentation if you need to. Some people will still be hiding their pay slip. That is not ideal. If you know you want to go do life with this person, full transparency, because it builds safety. And while secrecy would kind of cause suspicion. So I would say different timelines, like I have mentioned. But before you say the final I do, have full transparency. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Laurent. Um, so in essence, the first thing in a relationship, I mean, it should not be the first thing when you're, I mean, building a relationship. Money should not be like the first fundamental or foundation. I mean, you're still trying to know the person's value. I mean, after trying to understand the person's value, I mean, then the conversation about money can start to come in, and then it must be full transparency. So transparency meaning, I mean, you have to be transparent in all. I mean, even to the point of documentation, according to Dr. Loretta, which also now leads to the next question, which is very, very, very vital and also tricky. And because, I mean, we've talked about how not just documentation, transparency is important when handling a relationship, but also coming together to make something work, which is like teamwork. So over to you, Comfort. What are some subtle behavioral red flags around money that couples tend to ignore early on, and how can they move forward?
All right, thank you very much for that question. I'd say that there are quite a couple, and if I'm being quite honest, they might not be as subtle as we like to think they are. The first one, I'd say, definitely has to be them not being able to give you a certain response as to what they do. for money, right? So when you're getting to know someone and you find out that when it comes to the topic of their work, their job, they always just seem to dance around it, or their answers are never exactly the same. Today is one thing, today is another, and you can't see actual proof that what they're doing for money is legit. That is definitely a red flag. A lot of people will just ignore it, especially if the person seems to be better off to do, like, oh, as long as there's money, but you definitely need to pay attention to that. If it might not be that they are being doing anything illegal, but that's inability to just be honest about what they do for a living speaks to a great issue of just not being able to be transparent about finances, which, as our last speaker said, can actually lead to issues in the future. So, number one, it shows that they are unable to be transparent about their finances, which is something a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people just don't know how to share because money is very, very sensitive for so many people. Money is just very, very sensitive. So, when a conversation about money comes up, most of our initial reaction is to shrink back, hide, conceal. So, you definitely want to pay attention to that, but it's most likely that they are up to illegal stuff. So you definitely don't want to ignore that. I would say another red flag is their spending habits, right? So if someone is always broke, like, oh, every time I'm broke, and they are working, right? It's a different case if you know they're not working, they're not really earning. Sometimes situations are just like that, and it's no fault of jazz. But someone is always broke and they cannot say what they are using their money to do, right? They can't point to, I'm paying off debts or I'm taking care of family bukata. Like they can't point to something they're using their money to, but they're just always broke. That means they have a money management problem, and you definitely want to pay attention to that. Right now, another red flag is if they are addicted to gambling or betting, right? This one is it's not subtle, but a lot of people don't recognize addiction when they see it, right? Because they think, oh, it just loves betting because betting brings them money, it's a passive income stream. But if you notice that every time someone gets a little money, they're putting it into betting games, or even after they've lost money, they're still going back and putting more into betting games, then that is a gambling problem. That is an addiction problem, and you definitely do not want to ignore it, right? So I would say just like at the top three red flags I would point out. Another one is debts, right? If a person has a huge number of debts and they cannot really point to why those debts have piled up to that point. Like it's not like it's a car loan or student's loan or a mortgage if you are in this part of the world, or
Hi, Comfort. I don't know if it's just me, but I think you are breaking.
Oh, hello? Hello, are you hearing me better now?
I can hear you. I can hear you very well.
Okay, all right. Victor, how about you? Oh, I think we've lost Victor. But can anyone else hear me?
I can hear you very, very well, like clearly.
Okay, all right. So I'll just go on then. And hopefully we'll get Victor back. So as I was saying, if they're in a huge amount of debt and they cannot really point out what made them get into so much debt, that means they have a borrowing problem, right? So some people are chronic borrowers. They just borrow and borrow and borrow, and they don't stop to pay their debt ops. Like they don't even set up any plan on how to pay those debt ops. Sometimes what they do is they rely on borrowing more debts to pay off the previous debts. Now I'm not saying that that is necessarily a personal flaw, right? I understand that there are situations when it can be really, really just hard for people and they have no other option than to be in that situation. But often what you'll find is that they are just chronic borrowers. So you definitely want to pay attention to that. If someone is always in debt and they're not really doing anything concrete, they're not looking like they're really serious about paying off those debts, they seem to be very comfortable in that place of debt, then you definitely want to pay attention. Another red flag I would point to is someone who seems to be comfortable with being idle, right? So they don't really have much going on for them, but they just seem to be very comfortable. They're not doing anything. They're not trying to get more jobs. They're not trying to learn a skill. They're not even trying to network. They're just there, like, oh, whatever comes each day, they're comfortable with it. Or they're just comfortable with asking and receiving whatever crumbs people are willing to give to them. They are so used. You notice that their major source of income is somebody is relying on the fact that, or on the possibility that somebody will shall take pity on them and give them something. in that case, that person is definitely, like a form of liability, and you want to pay attention to that. If they are idle and they're comfortable being idle, if they're comfortable with just receiving from others and not really taking any step to earn money for themselves, then that is a problem. Now, again, caveat, I am not saying this. I know there are situations where a person is just like they just don't have, they're not just able to get a job, but you can see them actively trying to change their situation. If that's not the case and it's just idleness, then you definitely want to pay attention to that. So just to recap everything I've said so far, the first one, if they are unable to disclose their source of income and you can't point to like a specific source of income of theirs, or if the answers keep changing every time the conversation of how they make their money comes up, that's a red flag, right? Number two, if they are constantly in debt and they're not really taking active measures to reduce those debts, they just keep adding more debts upon more debts, that is a red flag. Number three, if they're comfortable with being idle, doing nothing, and just receiving whatever people, feel gracious enough to send that way, that is a red flag. Number four, if they are always broke, like they are working hard, they are making money, but they are just always broke, that is a red flag. And number five, if they are, no, I think I mentioned, yeah, fine. Number five, if they are always betting, always gambling, always staking money on one, chasing one goal or the other, that is obvious that this goal that chasing is just a castle in the air. It's nothing real. Like, calm down, settle down, and actually do something serious with the money. But no, they're just gambling and betting and all of those things. That means the person has a money management problem, gambling addiction, and you definitely want to pay attention to that. I could go on and on because there's several red flags, but just to consider our time, I'll say I'll just stop here for now.
All right, thank you so much. I think my network was lagging for a bit, but I get like the majority of what you were trying to explain. I think just a little icebreaker, since we are also talking about behavioral red flags to look out for in a relationship. Because part of the questions we got on Anonymous is also, I mean, now that we've talked about red flags, somebody asked on the Anonymous if what's the question again? If I want to phrase it like the person said it, is financial incompatible a good reason to end a relationship? I mean, this is just an open floor for either Comfort, Olu, or Loretta. So the person asks, is financial incompatible, is it okay? Is it a good reason to now finally like, oh, I'm not doing this anymore and I have to end this? What do you guys think?
Okay, let me take this one. So I am currently studying the field of psychology that basically postulates this theory that when it comes to compatibility in relationship, it's not really about how the people involved meet each other, but what they decide to do when they realize, okay, this is where we are as persons in our individual lives, but we want to be together. So I would say incompatibility itself is not necessarily a reason to end the relationship, because you can work on what is making you guys incompatible and actually become compatible, right? So let's say one person is more of the spender, the other person is more of the saver, and the person who is a spender, their spending habits are really just wreaking havoc in the relationship to their finances specifically, and the person who is the saver is just getting so frustrated about it. Now, if it were to be that the person who is the spender is unwilling to see things from the perspective of the person who is more, let's do better with money, and just okay, listen, I say, okay, yeah, I think I do have a spending problem and I need to work on it. If the person is unable to do that and continues to revel in their spending ways, or let me say their overspending ways, that means definitely the relationship has to come to an end at some point, because you are both not aligned, right? However, if it's the case of, yes, I am able to admit that I have a gambling addiction, but I want to work on it, right? Now that it's been brought to my attention, I value this relationship enough to be willing to work on it and get better, and you actually see them taking active steps to work on it and get better, then of course you can decide to be patient with them, give them the support that they need to overcome that issue, and see what life can hold for the both of you. So let me just say in summary, it really just depends on, is the person teachable, is the person willing to learn, or are both parties, or so, because sometimes it can be that both parties, even though they are not compatible, it doesn't mean whatever side of the spectrum they are in or they're on is much better than the other person's side of the spectrum. So it could be both parties will need to do the work, because some people might be saving to a fault, and that's what we call orders, right? Yeah, they have good savings culture, they have good investment culture, but they are hoarding money. So even when it comes to what they really need to use money for, they'll rather not spend it, right? So that is just like a very, very extreme end of the spectrum as well, as being an overspender is another extreme end of the spectrum. So in this situation, people who have this dynamic can be like, oh, it's not working out, but they're both willing to do the work, they're both willing to see, a financial therapist, or start learning more about finances, getting more financial education, and they're actually applying what they're learning and they're becoming better, then they can walk through that incompatibility and go on to become a successful couple. So it's not a matter of it's not a straight answer of yes or no. It's a question of, okay, what are they willing to do with the awareness of that incompatibility? If nobody is willing to do the work and step up, then of course the relationship will have to end. Maybe because you both come to an agreement and say this is not working out, or naturally, as time continues to go by, I realize that this is really not working out. It's causing a lot of conflict, and you guys just end up breaking apart.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to actually go deep, dissect it, and give us like case scenarios that we can relate to. And that was very, very important. I think from time to time, any question that relates to what has been asked anonymously, I will just bring it up just as a sort of icebreaker. So over to you, Tolu. Since we're still on like red flags and if financial incompatibility and all that. So Comfort was she touched briefly on like earning potential of a member of a partner, sorry. So if they're not willing to also just do something themselves, they just accept what it is. So on that basis, when one partner earns significantly more than the other, what psychological dynamics tend to emerge, and how should couples manage them?
Thank you so much, Victor. So I think this is something that everybody can relate with. Of course, it depends on what your personal, how comfortable and how self-trained, how self-disciplined you are as regards money. But we know that money beyond just a means of exchange is also a means of identity for many people. People tend to weigh themselves, relate themselves based off of how much money they have. Random example, someone that drives a car feels better than someone that takes a cab or takes a keke. Now imagine now this comes into the relationship, whether it's dating or marriage. Automatically, the person that earns higher may feel as the one in control, may feel as the one that that has the authority or the superiority in the relationship. So you feel that, oh, because I bring more to the table in this relationship, I should decide what we do. I'm the one that will pay for. I'm the one that pay for the meal, so I should decide which restaurants we're going to eat. I'm the one that pays the rent, so I should decide which house we live without considering what your thought or opinion is. We've seen relationship where, let's say for instance, the man is the one that's fixed, pays the bills, or just wakes up next day and just tell his wife, okay, pack the bag. I pay the rent for a new house, and we are going there tomorrow. And we're like, just like that, I didn't even know about it. My opinion does not count. These are the things that happens when one partner earns significantly higher than the other. So there's that control. And then there's the part of the person that earns higher or that carries the buck to feel superior, but there's also the part where the person that doesn't earn higher feel insecure, we feel dependent or a sense of pressure, where you you don't have the boldness to contribute. You might not like something, but because you know that either ways, I'm not the one paying for it, you just keep short, you just keep quiet, you just endure what's uncomfortable just because you're not the one handling the bill. So that happens. And also, this is now also very important, and that is when contributions in the home now is measured based on income. For instance, the woman, you have 3 kids, for instance, maybe they are between the age of 12 and 1. Now, the man works full time, and does all the bills, but the wife is stay at home, full stay at home. Now, the man can have a subtle sense of superiority because he pays for everything. But what that does is it undermines the contribution of the woman, because I paid the bills, then I contribute more. So now you measure contribution in the home based off of money, not necessarily on what is done. Because the truth is, if for instance you live in the UK, you live in Canada, and you want to pay for someone to babysit, you're going to pay them a lot of money. So in an average environment, if not Nigeria, this woman would earn enough to be a major contributor if she's being paid for that service. And anyone that has taken care of toddlers or children know that this is a full-time role. It can literally drive you crazy. I have a toddler at home, so I know what I'm talking about. So now, if money now becomes the only means of measurement, it becomes a problem. So the question now is, how do you undo it? And that's where mutual submission and humility comes in, where you don't measure superiority in the home based off of finance, but based out of partnership. We're in this together. We're in this together. We are the way the Christians will believe it, or the Bible say it is, you become one flesh. So my bringing more money to the home does not make me better than you. This is privilege, whether privilege of the career aspect, or maybe having learned more about financial management and started investing much earlier. I'm in better place in my finances. I just see it as this is my opportunity to bring this to the home and to contribute this for the growth of all of us. So just having that sense of humility, also knowing that the truth is I might be the bigger contributor today, but I might not be the bigger contributor tomorrow. We all we can say, oh, God forbid, it's not my portion, all this, but the reality is even billionaires, millionaires, they lose their money, whether it's a period of time, don't give it a turn tomorrow. So it's important to just have that sense of humility to say whatever I'm able to do now is privilege. Whatever I'm able to do now is privilege. I think another thing also is just have to just reject competition. Reject competition. It's not me versus you. It's me and you together, dealing with this, handling all the issues in the home. So if I'm able to go out and work and bring in money, you're able to assist, then that's great. As long as, like Comfort said much earlier, you're not lazy, you're not draining all our resources, but you're doing your best. It might be little, it might be a drop in the ocean, but either way, it's still a drop in the ocean. So I think if all this, uh, um, uh, uh, if you think through these lenses, then I think you'll be fine.
Thank you very much, to Lokbe. That your final point is very, 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 very important. Where it's not a competition. It's not me versus you. It is me and you. I think it summarized what you're trying to explain, which is also very, very vital. So Dr. Loretta, over to you. So we just have, after this one, we'll just take one final question so we can take a lot of anonymous that we have and also live questions. So in your experience, so I like the fact that in these questions we've talked a lot about, financial security, how to balance finances in your relationship. But let's also go back to the fact that in a relationship, it's not just finances that makes the relationship. There's also a sort of like emotional balance or emotional security to balance the relationship. So in your experience, Dr. Loretta, what does emotional security have to do with financial security in a relationship, and which one usually needs to come first, or how does it just, what's the whole nuances behind this? So hello, are you there?
Okay. Thank you. Can
Hello, are you
you?
there?
Yes. Yeah. I was just giving the chance to unmute myself. So, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Apologies.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Excellent.
Apologies.
Okay. So, emotional versus financial security. Ironically, in Nigeria, many people prioritize financial security first because poverty trauma is real. You know, a lot of times we think we go into marriage as a poverty alleviation scheme, so financial security seems to be more important to a lot of people. But the truth of the matter is that marriages, I said, marriages that are built only on money often struggle emotionally. So it is very important that you have emotional stability first before you are considering financial security. Are we saying you marry somebody that is irresponsible financially? Of course not. But we're saying let financial security not be the main reason to settle down with somebody, both as a male and as a female. Because marriage, just like life, is tough. Marriage, you encounter different cycles in your marriage. When you are newlyweds, there's that phase. When the kids come, there's another phase. You might experience medical emergencies. You might even experience financial struggles, you know, financial loss. There could be physical loss. So you can imagine if the basis for which you settled is just finances, how are you going to manage when these traumatic life events, because they will surely come, when they happen. So we're saying that yes, financial stability is good, and of course, financial stability is different from for everybody. For somebody else, if you don't have a car, for some Lagos big babes, if you live across the third mainland bridge, that means if you're on the mainland, you don't qualify. That's some people's idea of financial stability, which is not even realistic. For some other person, if we just have a place to put our head on, if we have a job, we're okay. You get? So you have to check yourself. Financial stability, yes, it reduces survival stress. No doubt about that. It's good to cry inside a Lamborghini than inside a keke. But why should you even have reason to cry at all? Why don't you settle for somebody that is your safety, somebody that has got your back, somebody that is your peace, somebody that is dependable, somebody that loves and cares for you. Those are the things. Somebody that is your friend, somebody you can have conversations with, somebody you can trust, somebody you can hold hands together during the difficult times. Those are the things that will carry you. It's not every day you are going to go out. It's not every day you are going shopping. It's not every day you are buying new cars. But every day you have to have conversations. Every day you have to think of your life together. So why don't you go for that person rather than the person that is throwing money at you, both as a male or as a female? So I'll tell you, emotional security is superior. Financial security, yes, it makes life easier, but don't let that be the basis for which you make your choice. We have seen too many, even on social media. It's not worth, just handing your life over for. So I would say please consider that person that you can do life with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Loretta. That was very, very deep, and also something that's also needed to be touched on, because a majority of our conversations have had to do with finances, but I mean the emotional part also is also very vital. So before we take the final question that I would ask everybody, since we are still on this, so I have another question to ask. I mean, it's also open to the floor to, so I guess, so someone asked anonymously. So I'm trying to gain financial freedom. So this is just as icebreaker, so it keeps us engaged. So I'm trying to gain financial freedom, but my dad draws me backwards. I pay his house rent, send allowance, and he's still very healthy and strong to work. What do I do? Because if I don't help, I would be emotionally blackmailed. Who has an answer to this?
Let me say something briefly about it, Victor.
All right, go for it, please.
All right, so see, this might be a bitter pill to swallow, but people must come to reality that there's just so much you can do, and you must think of the consequence of your actions. And by that, I mean, of course, this is a question around black tax, where you have to be responsible for your family. This for the other people on in this meeting, theirs might not be their dad, it might be just family, siblings, things like that. And you must learn part of financial responsibility, or part of good financial discipline or habits is being able to draw the line. Being able to draw the line to say, based off of my capacity, based off of what I'm able to do, this is as much as I can do right now. This is not the advice is, don't take care of your dad, put a blind eye over it. Don't do that, definitely. But the truth is, you must be realistic and be honest with how much you can do per time, what your capacity can truly carry. And with that, you must communicate what that is. If, okay, no, daddy, I won't be able to do both your rents and your upkeep. I'm going to take care of your upkeep every single month. And if you come to that and you're able to communicate that and draw the line, that, because the truth is, let me paint this reality. If anything bad happens to you, God forbid, your dad will keep living. And if you start thinking of it this way, it would be a harsh wake up call. You're thinking, oh, this person can survive without me, this person can survive without me. And I'm saying this because I've spoken to quite a lot of people on this matter where this person can survive without me, they really depend on me. Then something happens, maybe you had a difficult month, you had an emergency and you couldn't do anything. You realize that the person survived the month. Something came from somewhere and they survived that month. So you have to be mindful that you don't continually give out your seed to the point where at the end of the day you have nothing to even take care of them with. You must learn, is this supposed to be a seed? Is this supposed to be a food? You know, and the sad reality with Africans is, which is why many people don't even experience financial freedom, is because you have so many people depend on you, and what you have, by seed and food, and being figurative about it, you, because your food is not enough, you have to also give the seed. And if you don't plant the seed, you won't have what to give eventually. So you have to come to a point where there are some seasons where it looks as though you're being wicked or being understanding, but you put your feet to the ground, plant the seed of that season. Everybody might have to cut back. Even you might have to cut back on some things. Okay, then instead of living in a 500,000 apartment, can you move in with me? Let's share, or can you, downgrade it so that way your cost of living is much more better to handle. Plant your seed in those seasons. By the time those seeds germinate, whether it's investment, being able to, put capital into a business, when return comes, you'll be in even a better position to take care of him or whoever is depending on you. So let me just rest the case here.
Okay, let me just
Thank you
add
so I
a
got a
little to
call.
that.
Okay, Dr. Loretta, please
I
go for
got
it.
a call. Okay, Dr. Loretta, please go for it.
Okay, so the first thing you would ask yourself is, are you even standing? You know, a lot of us, let me not use a lot of us because I have I have crossed, that most likely I've crossed that stage, and I'm in my 50s. A lot of you are still building. You're not even standing, and then you are carrying load. That means you will not stand. So the first thing you ask yourself is, are you standing? You will see somebody that is working as maybe a security guard, even working as a house help, and they are already carrying load. That is not meant for you. So your ability to do or not to do is dependent on where you are per time. Okay? You cannot carry load. You see, you cannot give what you don't have. There's a Yoruba proverb that says, "Owo ti o si jedi o le gba," meaning that the money that will not dey, pile cannot collect it. So that's the first thing. Some of you don't even have. You will go and borrow against your salary, because you want to meet needs that you have not reached the level or developed capacity to meet. So that's the first thing you are asking yourself. Do I have the capacity to meet these needs? Number one. Then number two, you have to consider yourself first, your future, your tomorrow. I had a young man over about 30 years ago, looking for admission. But while he was looking for admission, he was doing this factory work. So doing factory work, their father was late. They were like 8 kids. So he was doing the factory work to help the mom. He wasn't among the first 3. Maybe he was like the 4th child. So when admission came to study engineering, the first thing he was told is, you cannot leave and go to school. This work you are doing is helping us. And he was considering it. And I told him, see, you cannot help people if you are not standing. How much is the factory work? The best thing you can do for yourself is remove yourself from this environment. Go to school. Hustle. If it means you are washing plates for your mates, wash plates, wash clothes, but go to that school. But that you are going to mortgage your life to meet needs that you are not even capable of yet. And thankfully, the young man listened, went to school, whatever means he struggled, whatever, fortunately got a scholarship and traveled abroad. He stood and was able to bring as many of his siblings as he could. So that is what you always ask yourself. Do within your means. Don't go borrowing. Please don't go borrowing. You cannot, give from what you have. You cannot be earning 100,000 and they're making a demand of 150,000 from you. No, you have to allocate, like Tolulopa said. This is what you must see. You must save, and you must invest. So if it's out of your 100,000, it's 20,000 you're able to give to your parents, by all means, do that. Yes, there might be emergencies, maybe a medical emergency. Those are, situations that don't come all the time. But please, a lot of you are carrying load that you are not supposed to be carrying. And by so doing, you can't even settle down when you should, because you're already carrying burdens. You're not parents yet, but you're carrying load. You are training children in school, So I'm begging you, please consider yourself. Like he said, these people will survive. See, if you die today, your parents will survive. They will not die. Your siblings will survive. They will not die. So you need to put boundaries in place to protect yourself. Nobody will protect you. Nobody will stand up for you more than yourself. So don't do beyond yourself. You are not El Shaddai, else you shall die. I would end with that. Thank you.
Very, very. I don't even have a word, but that was very, very necessary. Thank you so much, Dr. Loretta. So I just wanted to add that just as a sort of icebreaker to also make the conversation a little bit more real life driven. So based off what some people are experiencing at the moment. So my final question, because we have around 27 minutes now to wrap up this whole thing. So my final question to you would be so that's to you, Comfort, then Tolu can go next, then Dr. Loretta. So my final question would be, so for couples who want to build wealth together, what foundational conversations must happen before they start investing or owning assets together?
All right, thank you very much for that question. Before I answer it, I just want to make a side note to the question from the audience that was just addressed by the other two speakers. Also, I love the way Tolu and Mrs. Loretta answered the questions. Really amazing. But as someone who's also having to do with black tax and who has decided this year that I am going to be wicked. Let me just say that there's this trending audio on social media right now. Yakubu, manage to do as if you want to die, but don't worry, you will survive. So yes, first, and I know that when you start to begin to say no to them, it will be so hard. You feel like a bad person. You feel like you are denying them life, like you are being stingy, like you are being ungrateful for all the sacrifices they made for you. But I want to tell you something. The reason why there is so much generational poverty, especially in Nigeria, in Africa, is because of black tax. Right. So one generation grows up believing they're sacrificing everything for the general generations. So now when the younger generation grows up, they will now begin to sacrifice everything for them. And the cycle just continues. The time you're supposed to be using to build your own future, your own wealth, your own financial security, and pave the way for your younger ones. You are using it to take care of the people who have lived their lives to a certain extent. Yes, we love our families. Yes, we want to make life comfortable for them. But the truth is, we will never get to the point of actually being able to make life comfortable for them if we do not begin to put certain boundaries in place and just lock up as we are putting those boundaries in place. Like Tolu said, you will see, let me tell you, they will survive. They will survive. Sorry, they will survive, right? They will definitely be okay. Yes, it's going to feel, things are going to feel a little strained for some time, but this time, if you are using it to really build wisely, you're saving, you're investing, give it a few years and you'll be in a much better situation to do even more for them, right? So just do what you can and don't do past yourself. It will be so hard. Sometimes people love to use emotional blackmail, you tripping, they'll use all the emotional manipulative cards in the game to make you feel awful and make you give more than you have. You don't have it. That's the truth. You don't have it. So do what you can and leave the rest for God. So, in order to answer the question that was asked, what foundations have to be laid for couples who want to build wealth together? I'll say the first thing is transparency about where they are presently in their finances, right? So you can't build together if you don't know where you're starting from. You have to have a sit down and have a serious talk, full transparency. I don't know, some couples, they like to hide what they are earning, how much they are earning, and how they are spending from each other. Again, I understand that in general, finances are a very, very complicated topic, especially, again, it ties back to our childhood. Growing up, a lot of us, the only thing we used to hear is there's no money. Right? So I don't have money. We didn't really know what was actually going on with the finances, right? So we just think, oh, we have to keep it quiet. They don't need to know. Your spouse needs to know. Sometimes it's, from a place of shame, like, oh, maybe you think you're not doing well with your finances and you don't want them to judge you. There should be a no judgment zone. Bring everything out in the open. This is where we are. There's no such thing as your money is my money and my money is my money. All of you people's money are all of you people's money. This is where we are right now as a family, right? So be honest. Now, set a goal, right? Be clear, be very clear on your vision for the future. What do you both want to achieve as a family? How much do you want to have in your retirement plan? When do you want to retire? When do you want to buy a house? When do you want to buy a car? How many properties do you want to own, right? How many businesses do you want to build? You have to be really, really clear on what the vision for the future is. So when you know where you are headed and you know where you are now, it's now very easy to do, the math addition, subtraction. Okay, so if this is where we're going to, and this is where we are now, minus where we are now from where we are going to, this is how much work we need to do. Then it now becomes easier to set a plan in place. Okay, if this is where we're going to and this is where we are now, maybe there are debts. Okay, how are we going to do it? We need to set a plan that helps us to pay debts, but at the same time helps us to save and invest, or we need to start building our emergency funds, because where we are now is very, very shaky. If anything happens to any of our sources of income, we are going to struggle. So we have to start building an emergency fund first, right? So be very transparent about where you presently are, and then be honest about the future, be clear about the future you want to build, then set up a game plan and stick to that game plan. You guys are holding yourself accountable, not with criticism, not with harshness, but with love, with no judgment, and with understanding. Like, yeah, I am holding you accountable. We said we'll do this, we have to do this. Then you also have to be willing to make the sacrifices, right? I think one of our speakers mentioned this earlier. Sometimes we say this year is not the year for us going out on date nights, going to celebrate every single activity or buying every single new gadget. Sometimes you can afford to do those things, right? But the question is, if you do these things now, what is it costing your future? What is it costing that beautiful life you want to build together and live together, and basically most likely give your kids, right, and leave behind for your future generation? So what would happen if, instead of all these date nights and buying the latest gadget that you really don't need, or what will happen if you cut down, if you only did what was necessary for just 1 year or a couple of months? You notice that for a lot of couples, things will shift when it comes to their finances, right? They'll be able to save up more, they'll be able to invest more, and that sacrifice of 1 year, 6 months, and something's happened over and over again, real life situations, would end up setting up their future for much better. And they're able to pay off debts, they're able to buy a car, they're able to, start looking towards getting a house bought or built. So yeah, just to recap, the foundations: transparency, clarity about the future, and setting up a game plan, and then follow that with accountability, support, encouragement, and finally, be willing to make the necessary sacrifices. If you're able to do these things, I assure you, things will begin to look up when it comes to your finances as a couple. Thank you.
Thank you, Comfort.
Thank you.
That was very, very detailed and insightful. So Tolu, you can go now.
No, no, I
Since
think
this is the
Comfort
final
has
question.
yeah, I
Okay.
think Comfort's did an extensive and amazing job. As she was listening, she was really checking out all the points I had. I think the only thing I'll just add to it is just have regular meetings to review where you are. Have regular meetings to review where you are, because your goals, your sacrifices, the decisions you made, maybe at a time where your earnings was in a different place, might change over the course of the year. So your plan during the first year of your marriage might not be the same at the fifth, might not be the same at the 10th. The truth is, in life, you have seasons. Maybe what you're saving before you had a kid, before you had children, won't be the same when you have children, So you have to be able to constantly review that. Where are we? How far are we gone? Do we need to push? Do we need to cut back on some things? So constantly review. That will help you even hold each other accountable. I think she mentioned accountability as well, to help each other accountable through that period. So I think that would be probably the only thing I'll add to what she said. There's something she said I think it's important that people need to just know, and that is, she said sacrifice in that period, but I'll put in a way to say, um, just review your lifestyle expectation. The way you spend, knowing that we're saving for the future, is not the same way you spend, without future in mind. Some people just do, you know what, tomorrow we're about to save. Now, person with their life, they save, any money where I get like this now enjoyment. But for some people, let me use an example. Growing up, there was a period in which my parents, my mom's office, everybody bought a particular kind of car. They bought V-Boots, because of course they were earning a lot of money. But because she knew that she had 4 children who are in private school, one of them is about going to university, she couldn't buy that car everybody bought. And that is being able to just manage expectation, delay gratification because of the goal you have. So you won't measure yourself by what everybody, my colleagues should be doing this, my mates are doing this. But remember, you have a goal, you have something that you and your partner are working towards. So you must be able to manage your life expectation with the lens of the future goal you have. So yeah, but brilliantly answered, Comfort.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Loretta.
Okay, I think I'll just I'll concur with what the earlier speakers have said, and I'll just add a list of things you should also talk about. The conversations, first of all, extended family responsibilities. Who are we responsible for financially? Our parents, our siblings, our relatives? Do we have community obligations? This conversation can make or break your finances. You must have it. Second thing, what is our vision for housing? You know, are we renting? Are we building? Are we buying? What is our priority in terms of location? I just mentioned across the third mainland versus that's on the mainland versus island. If you have somebody that is hell bent on living in Ikoyi and you don't mind living in Yaba, you need to have those conversations. What is your location priority? Do you have village home expectations? If you are getting married to somebody from the east, you should know that having a house in the village is important. Have those conversations. Then what about children's education? Tolulope mentioned they went to private schools. For some people, they are wealthy, but they do not believe in private school education. You must have those conversations. You might be a product of private school, your partner a product of public school, and then he tells you, I don't believe my child should go to Covenant University. They can go to Unilag, they can go to UI. You have to have those conversations. Do you want your kids to school abroad? Have those conversations. Education is one of the biggest long-term expenses. Biggest long-term expenses. We're 25 years in marriage, and we're hopefully rounding up, educational expense this year, give or take next year. You can imagine how long it's taking us. So that is something you just have to talk about. Then the next thing, is it going to be business or employment? Some people prefer stable salaries. Some people say, I want to be employed. Some people say, oh, I want to run a business. So you need to have those conversations. It's not always easy if both of you are running a business. You know the way businesses is. One person might opt for a stable salary. You need to have those conversations. Then debt. Is borrowing acceptable for land, cars, businesses, or do we always save? Of course, if you are living abroad, that's a whole different conversation. The system there is different. So you have those. Then documentation and ownership. Whose name will the assets be in? These are conversations you must have. Many conflicts arise when this is never discussed. I remember when my husband bought me my first car. Meanwhile, I even got married and was rounding up school, and he bought me a car and put his name. And the second car, and it was like, your car. And I told him, oh, sorry, it's not my car. You put your name, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. It's because in their office, the office provides comprehensive insurance, and he needed to put his name there. And subsequently, all the other cars we've had to have now, he puts only my name. Do you get it? You buy landed property, whose name will be there? Do you advocate for each of you? And when you are writing the names, don't forget it's not Mr. and Mrs. Ogbum. It is Johnson and Loretta Ogbum, because your mother is Mrs. Ogbum too, as a man. These are conversations you must have, so that you don't have conflicts. Then, how do we plan crises? There will be illnesses, there will be job loss. Yes, it happens. There will be relocation. There will be economic downturn. How do we manage these periods? How do we do this? Okay. So, what will I say? I would round up by saying that marriage in our society is not just a union of two people. Remember, it's a merger of families. And what I mean by families, your spouse is bringing their family in, what they have learned, their experiences, their exposure, their education. This is what they are bringing in, and also financial realities. So love may bring you together, but clarity will keep you together. Love may bring you together, but clarity will keep you together. So money will not destroy a strong relationship. Secrecy, assumptions, and silence will. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Loretta. Um, and I think I also agree with the point you raised, which is you said something about um, education is one of the biggest or long-term expenses in a relationship, which is actually realistically like makes sense, because I mean, from when the child is a young baby to when they are a youth till I mean they finish university, it's that's over a span of averagely 16 years, if not more, like 20, 23 years. So that kind of makes sense. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you, Dr. Loretta. Thank you to Lope. Thank you, Comfort, for joining us this evening. We are going to be treating the anonymous questions now. I think we can just be doing one minute for like a take, so we can at least take 3 or 4. Then we can now use 3 minutes to take like live questions. But I mean, just in case you just joined us, we're talking about understanding the language of love and money in the relationship with your partner. And our guest here went in deep, dissected it. And I think just to add to also to the second anonymous question I dropped, which was talking about how to handle black tax, essentially, because they're trying to emotionally blackmail the person, whoever the person is. And also statistically, I think according to like a stats, there are over like at least 70% of working professionals regularly send money home, and they at least cater for 3 to 5 family members. That's apart from your relationship. So the way to go around this is to just have a structure. Having a structure meaning budget your finances, everything, like budget your whole cash flow, every money that comes in and goes out, budget everything. Once you have like a budget and you have like, just like Tolopi and all our other guests have said, once you have like a way where you can measure what comes in and what goes out, it gives you like a direction how you want to spend your money. Because just like Loretta also said, you cannot give more than you have. And also it's not, I think we talked about this one of our investment club meeting last year, where we are talking about good debt and bad debt. You don't want to borrow money to create more debt for yourself. If you are borrowing money, it's to make more money. So you're borrowing money. When you borrow money to make more money, that's like a good debt. But when you borrow money to even like also finance expenses or expenditures like this, it means you're also just putting yourself in a very bad financial state, which is not a way to go if you are trying to like attain financial freedom. So just to wrap this up, this was a good conversation this evening. We can take, so thank you everyone. We can take one, let me drop like an anonymous. So somebody said at one point, so this person said, so either of you to look by Loretta or Comfort. So at what point do I need to stop bankrolling my partner? And how do I ask for money that I borrowed in upon request and voluntarily offer to borrow? So let me take that again. So at what point do I need to stop bankrolling my partner? And how do I ask for money that I have borrowed in upon request?
All right, let me go first there. I think I'll let the other speaker go after me. Now, this question is not
Sorry to
straightforward. It's
interrupt
not
you.
black and
Please
white.
just remain me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, that's fine. Let me just say this. You can't, it's not blanket statement. It's not a blanket. It's not easy yes or no, or after 1 year, after 3 months. Is what's the dynamics of your partnership? For instance, you have a partner that can't work because you decided to homeschool your children. So you said, no, I don't want nanny, I don't want help, so my wife must do it. So your wife is fully at home, morning to night, taking care of 4 children, and you're asking, okay, at what point do I stop bankrolling my partner? That question does not cover for you because, like I said, I think I know one of the first questions I answered. Contribution in the home is not only money based. So there are times in which for the partnership to be balanced, one person will have to foot more bill compared to that person. So in the case where your partner is also bringing something to the table, might not be money, but is covering for other things that money can do or money can't buy, then you have to see that the financial obligation will probably be on your shoulders. So you have to critically analyze what is the dynamics of your relationship. You stop bankrolling your partner. At what stage is the partner's relationship? Are you dating? Are you married? In the case where you're dating and your partner is responsible, you've given them money to start the business over a period or to earn a living, but they clearly have poor financial management skill, then wisdom demands that if you keep giving them the money will go down the same drain. So you've seen that they have poor financial ability. Even if you're married, manage the money. Just give them as on a need basis. So summarize it is critically analyze your relationship. At what stage is it? Measure your partner's financial management skills or ability or discipline. And then also, are they also bringing something else to the table that complements for your financial contribution? So.
Thank you, Tolulope. Makes sense. Makes sense. Also very realistic, to be honest. Should I ask the next one, or any of you want to add to that? Okay, I think I'll ask the next one. So another person asked, should married couples, okay, let me ask this first. How does one manage finances in a relationship when one spouse in the relationship is the breadwinner and relied upon heavily and the other isn't? Are there ground rules to be set for family giving if finances are shared? What advice would you give couples who could have disagreement about this? Thank you. I think this is what you just touched on, to look and like it's sort of like a response. I think you touched on this just now. So the next
I
question
directed the
I'll
question to
ask
me. I didn't
you.
quite get the question, Chloe. So I won't be able to.
Okay. So I said I think you just even touched this, so it makes sense that I just go to the next question. So the next is, this will just be the final question then. I think we'll just hear from one person before we wrap this up. Should married couples operate only one account? Who wants to go for this? Am I audible
Yes, we
or am
can
I
hear
breaking?
you. Sorry, I was
Okay.
laughing because I was like, this is a trap question. No? The reason I say that is because so many people have different variations. So, honestly, I'm just going to speak personally. I think that, best case scenario would be for the individuals to have their separate accounts, and then for the couples to also have a joint account where, they can contribute into for joint expenses or household expenses or plans, as the case might be. But personally, I think there's a need to have separate accounts outside of any joint account you people will be having together. That's what I think personally, and that's what I would recommend as well.
All right, that makes sense. That works. That works. That works. Thank you.
I really want to hear Dr. Loretta's opinion on this, though. I want to hear, yeah.
All
Me
right.
too. I was hoping she would choose to
But yeah,
answer.
but if I'm to
Dr.
say something to
Loretta, you
this
have the floor
is,
now.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
Okay, you want to
Me
go first?
too. I was hoping she would choose to answer.
Okay, sorry.
Say something to this, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I come in, I want to say, Comfort, I follow you, and I've been following you for years, and you're such a blessing. So well done, great job. Hail your Bobo for us. Yes, I do. I follow you, and
Thank you.
I know
I'm
you
not
are a
even comfortable, but I
Nigerian
felt
like
that.
me, and I
I'm
know
not
you.
even comfortable, but I felt that.
I know her
Thank
very well.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So she has answered the question very well, you know. Have your own personal account. Joint account, it depends. My husband and I don't have joint account because from foundationally, it's been the majority. Yeah, which of the majority? It's been the bakery self, not a breadwinner. You know, it's been the bakery. So I will not use the word breadwinner self. So, you know, it's been the major person that has that's carried the financial load. Because, well, if you know OIC, the kind of money they make, and I started off in school, then I started running small business here and there. But I would always joke, even when I went into 9 to 5, that his salary, how do you put it? My salary is this tight, you know, would always joke about that. So we have never had need, you know, for joint accounts in the sense of that word. Whereas, you know, when we were counselors in church, the other couple, the husband who also works in the same place as my husband, the wife is just like me, quote and unquote. They have a joint account, which is the husband's salary account, and she manages it. Are you seeing the dynamics? So there is no one size fits all. Marriage is unique to the individuals there, you know. So the other woman, she, according to them, she takes care of everything. Maybe give the man transport fare, sef, that's their own cup of tea. But I have always believed that somebody that earns money deserves their autonomy, you know. The person has enough sense to earn the money. So I believe the person has enough sense to also know how to spend their money. You know, marriage is not bondage. So have your own personal account. If you choose to have joint accounts, people that have joint accounts, some people it's for project, it's for future use, maybe the children's what's it called, the children's education, you know, those things, they do that. However, the rule is this: you are a team, you know, whether this person is a majority, like I said, our own case, the guy is the bakery, but there are some things you can do as a team that will make the marriage work. You know, if you want to have
So did we lose you, Dr. Loretta, or was she done? I think we lost
I
her.
think we lost her.
I think we lost because I had to leave and join. I thought it was
Okay.
just me.
Yeah, yeah, I think she was, and I can't see her any longer. Yeah, so I think we lost her.
Yeah.
But so this is the time for even. Does anyone on the chat wants to ask just one person, ask us, contribute? I'm not sure we've ever gone past time like this in like at least 6 months above. I'm so sorry, everyone, to the guests and to people listening. So I create, please let it be relevant to what we are discussing, please. So I create just 30 seconds to ask or contribute. And if we don't get Dr. Loretta back, we can just wrap up. I create, are you there? I granted you access to speak. Where are you again? You can just to speak. You can just raise your hand. To be honest, it's the icon in the middle of the chat to speak. Request to speak, and then I grant you access. So you can go for it now. I just granted you access to speak. Just 30 seconds. Question, contribution. Please, quickly, please. I feel somehow now. All right. So I'm guessing there's no question. because I just granted you access to speak, but nobody said anything. So anybody else? But we have come to the final. Oh, bad network. Oh, I'm just seeing Dr. Reza chat. Bad network. All right. So we have come to the end of this session. This was quite insightful. Last time we did pass an hour. Can't remember because we always try to keep it an hour just because of the fact that we know, I mean, weekend is resting time for people. So just respect and value everyone's time. But today happened to be something we already pre-planned. We will go like at least 30 minutes past 1 hour, which is 1 hour 30 minutes, because we drop like anonymous form for people that might have private questions. There are still more that we haven't taken, but I mean the other ones are just are something our guests might have touched during the explanation. The ones I just shared now are just some that were not touched. So we have come to the end of this conversation. It was pretty much very interesting. Apart from the fact that it was educative, it was also interesting, especially the questions that were asked anonymously. They kind of gave it like a real life experience scenario, which kind of makes sense because I mean, relationship is not just a textbook thing where this one thing works in all relationship. This one thing, this one formula might just work in for this person, but not work for person C or person D. So having like a kind of a real life experience or scenario had like adds a better touch to it or better context to it. So thank you all for tuning in early. People that tuned in early, thank you so much for joining in early. Oh, I'm breaking. I just said I'm breaking. Am I breaking? Toluokwe and Comfort.
No, you're not. You can hear you clearly.
Oh, okay. So thank you for tuning in early, especially people that tuning in early and people that also joined the conversation. Because I really appreciate you for taking the time from your schedule to join us. I'm also my realization is also I think we don't like love conversation in this community because this is pretty much a very small crowd in a minute. I'm not sure we've done anything less than 100 in a minute. So we just want to stick to investment opportunities strictly. That's what I'm guessing. And we don't want to talk about love or relationship. All right. So that will be all from me. My name is Victor OVS, and I manage community growth at RiseVest. And RiseVest is an investment platform where you can invest either in stocks, real estate, and fixed income, Naira investment, or you can just go through the website just to save time. Any last word, Comfort, and Toluokwe, then we just wrap this up. Anyway, last word. But I'm good on my end. Thank you too for taking the time.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to say thank you for having us. And it's been wonderful meeting Victor. It's been wonderful meeting Toluokwe and Dr. Loretta. It's been wonderful hearing and learning from them as well. Thank you to the audience, and yeah, wishing everyone a wonderful rest of your weekends.
All right.
Thank you for
so
having me,
much.
Victor. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the amazing other panelists, Comfort, Dr. Loretta. I had an amazing time.
All right. I mean, with the little crowd we have, I'm happy we still get to enjoy ourselves. I mean, enjoy means the conversation was interesting and educative. So thank you. So okay, Dr. Loretta is raising up. So maybe she has final words, then wrap this up. Hi, Dr. Loretta. I just granted you access to speak. I think we're wrapping this up now. So just final word from you. And if you want to share anything, people should
Yeah, I'm so
embark on.
sorry. Village people didn't allow me to
I think we're wrapping this up now. So just final word from you.
Yes,
And if you
just
want to share anything,
no, it's
should
all right.
embark on this.
Just to say thank you for having me. Sorry that network decided to push me out, but thank you for the opportunity to have the conversations. Thank you to my fellow guests. Thank you to Lulokpe. Thank you, Comfort. And thank you, everyone, for the privilege. And I pray that you guys will have amazing and successful marriages and financial lives. Thank you. Bye.
Amen. Oh, amen for the community. Amen for me. But on a serious note, this is the part where we end this now. But we would really appreciate if you can just drop like a feedback on how this conversation was for you. If it was insightful, educative, interesting, found it valuable, or probably some things the guests were saying you found it. Just drop it on the chat box. Just say something. It could be anything. Just say something so people that could not attend could see what they've missed, or could also just relate to people that joined. So thank you so much for joining again, and we have come to the end of this conversation. So it will really be nice if we can get like a couple or a lot of people drop their feedback, because it takes like a couple of time to also plan this. Just to even drop like a little bit of filler. So Comfort here is currently not in the country, and at the time I was chatting with her, like few hours to the start time, that was when she was waking up at the place she is. So you can just tell it takes a lot of time to put this together. So it makes sense, or it would be very appreciative if we can just take a moment or take a minute to appreciate our guests, the conversation, the session, and more of that. So thank you all. Have a restful weekend, and thank you to my guests to have a restful weekend, and wish you a lovely week ahead. Bye, everyone.